just answering questions with WAPTech. The video today will be on technology and news sources that say car runs on water. Every time that happens, it should be banned for 1 year until they learn to stop doing that. Atmosphere, concentrations by percentage. 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 2 atoms each this way. Argon is 1%, and 0.04% of the atmosphere is carbon dioxide, which is a combination of carbon and oxygen. It used to be a lower number. Unless you have an engine that includes an oxygen tank, pure oxygen, or another oxidizer, which, by the way, if you do that, it's going to cause the same problem. I'll get to that in a minute. Any hydrogen combustion engine, even if it's a real simple switchover for a diesel engine in a vehicle, again, it doesn't have to be a different engine. It can be the same engine you have. They're not zero emission. They put out as much pollution of a particular type as coal, diesel, or burning oil. Fuel oil or transmission fluid oil. Doesn't, whatever. Nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide are produced. And yes, nitrous oxide exists, but that's a different thing. And again, if you burn that as your oxygen substitute, it will produce the same thing. And again, compressing hydrogen down cryogenically or by pressure so it'll go into a tank may be dangerous sounding, but compressing O2, I'll leave a couple of links to people shooting oxygen tanks. It's extremely interesting. The advantage with using hydrogen gas is you combust it in an internal combustion engine over a different range of fuel-air mixtures. You can run it really lean or really heavy depending on what you want. It'll produce less crap, but the crap it produces requires that you do the same thing they do in some European countries where they don't have a catalytic converter. They just have all the cars have either a drip of some fluid to get it to neutralize some of this stuff, or they have all the vehicles fitted with something that catches the exhaust from the car ahead of them and processes it. It depends on where you are, whether you've heard of any of these things or none of them. Yes, those two both exist. I can't pronounce it. Stoichiometric, chemically ideal amount needed for combustion. This is where you get full, complete combustion of fuel. Gasoline, alcohol, doesn't matter. You're making an alcohol stove out of a soda can or making a rocket engine to go into space. There are certain ideal mixtures. But you can use less than the theoretical ideal for hydrogen gas in a fuel engine, including an internal combustion engine using pistons, and you can get away with throttling the fuel and the air to control it, to give you exactly the amount of horsepower you need for going flatland, and if you need to go uphill, you can change the ratio and have it dynamically change. It means the engine gets slightly more complicated than a tractor. Not really much more complicated. You can just adjust 2 knobs. I've seen this done, and I've actually helped somebody. It's just as bad as biodiesel is what I used to tell people. Fuel economy is greater. Combustion reaction is more complete. The temperature is usually lower. You can build an engine with much lighter or much lower temperature materials. You just then can't switch back to gasoline, at least not as easily. And you get less pollutants in general. And by lowering the weight of the engine, which is a major weight in internal combustion engines, you can get away with getting a lot more economy out of them. But then again, you can just take not necessarily any old engine, but almost all of them with a little bit of modification, and get away with running your car on this stuff. But it's a little bit like, and it's almost directly comparable to going diesel or biodiesel in your car. I've helped people with biodiesel and building these things. And then we did the 50 BMG test and found out that shooting a container full of kerosene or biodiesel or a diesel engine fuel tank ain't got nothing on hitting an O2 tank and a hydrogen tank. That's the only time you don't get emissions that are bad. If they say it runs on water or only produces water, it is a lie. Every article I looked up for what you were looking up, for a hydrogen heavy goods vehicle, an HHGV, at Warwickshire Horiba Mira test track with a 600 kilometer range rounded off from really 370 miles per gallon, or range, we don't know the gallons, It doesn't run on water. It doesn't just produce water. That's it. They did not mention an oxygen tank. And if they mention an oxidizer, assume it's nitrous oxide, which means it'll produce as much or more nitrogen, oxygen, X, NOx materials. And the thing is, these are so confusing when you look them up, just the NOx. Literally just use the Wikipedia article and then go from there. I got nitrous oxide and nitrogen dioxide mixed up when I was talking about combustion materials. Yeah, I mixed some things up. I was dumb. I have a disclaimer under the video that I got them mixed up and totally disregard a video. So it's okay if people make a basic mistake like that. I can make a mistake like that, so can you. It's not okay for the news to make it for the 25th year in series by saying it runs on water or only makes water. That has never been true and has never been an assertion by anybody who is telling you the truth. Is it a green vehicle? It's greener, but you know how you can achieve the same thing? And yes, there's a bunch of articles on this too, and you might want to look them up. Reduce the weight of your car, drive on flat areas only, drive it under a certain limit so it's the highest efficiency possible, stop speeding, put cruise control on your vehicle. Hey, here's how to stick it to the man and be green, but you can decide you're going to be hillbilly green because it's not really you trying to save the whales or anything. Put a geofencing speed control on your car so you can't speed. That means you can't get a speeding ticket. Well, we have a speed, you have a speed trap here. It's noted. My car didn't go over the speed limit, and it records the speed continually. I'll see you in court. Or you can just walk away. Maniacally laughing at a cop is a bad idea. Having my car made to where I could not go over 55 in a 55 zone made me laugh at him more. Got a warning. Well, you're going to give me a written warning for driving the speed limit. I will see you in court. Yes, you can contest a written warning in court. I did it. I'm a dick. No, I'm not a sovereign citizen. I'm a hacker with access to the car. It was a Chevy Nova. But the point is, every article on this is a lie. All of them. Because they failed to say, yeah, it produces the same crap you get out of a diesel car. Now let's talk about diesel cars. Are they more efficient? Some are, some aren't. Now I'm going to bring up that we're at the 7-minute, 40-second mark. Here we go. My favorite high mileage, ultra miler, penny pincher vehicle. A street legal converted dirt bike with street tires put on it. It's a Honda. There's like 8 of them that have literally 300 and 400 miles per gallon rating. True story. You have to just fuel them more often because carrying the fuel actually lowers the mileage. But you can get a tank that doesn't slosh. It's a slosh-proof tank and put it where you need it, and you get a vehicle that has a pornographically long range to it. And it just runs on, it's a standard 4-cycle engine. You put oil and fuel in it. Sometimes it seems like you're putting both in at all times. And you convert it to street legal by putting turn signals and everything else on it. There's an obsession with illegal bikers deliberately buying dirt bikes because they're better efficient and everything, and converting them only enough so that they can still get a ticket because they kind of get off on skirting the law, and most importantly, taxes. Road tax, as people yell and scream in Britain at every bicyclist, when that's not a thing anymore. But you can do these ultra high mileage things and find out what the ratios are and everything. And what you find out is, if you want to save the planet, drive a motorcycle. Get a 3-wheeler if you want it more stable, slightly. I recommend against it if you're going to take turns of any kind. I'm not kidding. Learn to ride a motorcycle. And if you want to get a halfway point, get a electric assist bicycle. Because below a certain weight, you're better off with batteries and a motor now. Finally. And make it a front wheel motor drive one so you can take it off, put it on a real bicycle wheel, take off the batteries, and it's the same thing as a normal bike. It's a slightly beefed up bike. Basically, it's a standard mountain bike with an electric motor on the front and battery on in the basket. But when it comes to a motorcycle, 4-cycle engine, standard dirt bike design. One of the stamped steel ultralight ones will be fine. Just make sure it's good and rigid, and make sure you take it apart before you go anywhere. If it's brand new, get all the paint off and repaint it with an undercoating or electroplate the damn thing so it never rusts again. Get a used motorcycle. Now, What about cars? There are literally hundreds and hundreds of cars with ridiculously good gas mileage, which is the only thing you care about. You're going to produce pollution no matter what you do. The only other way to compensate for it is to plant 256 trees. Just remember 200 or more trees in your lifespan. That'll compensate for you. As long as they don't get burned down in a forest fire and nobody harvests them during your lifespan, you have had zero emissions as a person, whether you do any of this shit. And yeah, I know greenies out there do not want to hear it. That's what you do. Go out and plant trees someplace and just don't let them get cut down for your lifespan. Don't give Al Gore tax money. And as for this, it does not run on water. It does not run on water. And, oh, by the way, it doesn't run on water. And it doesn't just produce water. It produces water and a couple of the components to make smog and acid rain. Just like a coal-fire plant, just like an oil burner, just like a diesel engine, or even a gas engine. And if you don't tune it right, it's not going to be any better than them at all. And again, you can convert a normal engine, and you can make it much more efficient and have a better power band along a lot of different, horsepower rating requirements and whatever. But you're going to have to add a brain to the car that knows what it's doing with the fuel and makes it work right. But it will not just produce water droplets. And yes, a normal gasoline engine produces water as well as the rest of the crap. Same thing with diesel. They'll produce water vapor. And it condenses and you get out the tailpipe. Catalytic converters get a lot of the crap out we're talking about. So you'd have to have a catalytic converter on it. So it would reconvert a lot of this over and try to bind it out into something that doesn't go into the air. Lastly, is there a solution to us harming the environment where we don't have to do as much dicking around as this? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to put an oxygen tank and a hydrogen tank in a car, much less next to each other, for one of them to be punctured in a car wreck and literally turn into a bomb. I mean, just puncturing the O2 tank will make it burst into flames. In the presence of pure oxygen, everything is on fire. The road is flammable. The cement will burn. Rocks burn in pure oxygen. And if they don't include that, it's not any better at all, and it's much more dicking around and pressure. So, next stage. We've covered all this, right? How do we fix this? There's something besides a catalytic converter that binds together, and it's more processing, and it lowers your horsepower by about 0.5% if you can find one. And it's a big piece of material. I mean, it's like 3 feet across. It's a lot like a catalytic converter, but it takes the carbon dioxide intake, the gunk coming out of the engine, and it brings it up to a crazy hot temperature, and it bonds the carbon into soot. It literally stops making carbon dioxide, and it makes this other material. Now, it comes out as an irritant, but it's not biologically hazardous. It's just carbon, mostly carbon. It drops it out of the air and gets it out of the air. It still produces carbon dioxide, but it's like 1/10 of what it would normally do. Or just do a better job buying a car that's high efficiency. If you're driving around a lot not hauling any damn thing except maybe one bag of groceries, and especially if you're driving a car where there's only one person in it, you and the bag of groceries, that doesn't qualify in your carpool lane. Just get a car that is incredibly efficient and just deal with the fact that somebody will make fun of you once in a while, I guess, and have another vehicle that doesn't have the horsepower restrictions, a pickup truck. I'm sorry, just get a used pickup truck and a small car. Get a penny pincher car. And or drive a damn motorcycle and be happy with it. Is the risk higher? Yeah. Are you saving the planet? Sure. You really are doing a lot better on the world. But again, you can have all the advantages by either having a three-wheeler with a full hood and top to it, or just buy a really small, high-efficiency car and get it and be done with it. Just buy a Mini if you can afford it, or buy a used Mini if you can't afford the new one. And yeah, hydrogen fuel I recommend against, especially in trucks. Crashes happen. I don't care if it's crash-proof. It's only crash-proof until it isn't. And please don't carry pure oxygen tanks in your car to try to fix this. And none of them said they were doing that. So no, again, it doesn't run on water, and it doesn't just emit water. So yeah, it was one big lie, and thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And make them admit that it doesn't just produce water.